What would you do if the same thing that you have spent your entire life fighting against turned out to be the secret to your freedom? Suffering is something that the majority of us dread, want to avoid, and do everything in our power to push away. However, what if it turns out that it is not the adversary that we believe it to be? What if it turns out to be the most powerful instructor the world has ever seen, the impetus for the most deep change you will ever encounter? Imagine that you come to the realization that the suffering you have endured was not only a random adversity, but rather an essential component of your path that has brought you to a point where you no longer require it. Are you curious? The paradox of suffering is something that needs to be unraveled, and we need to find out how it could possibly hold the key to living a life released from its hold. After a while, you come to the realization that you have endured enough pain. If you have genuinely experienced enough pain in your life, then and only then will you be able to say, "I don't need it anymore." One of the most valuable teachers is suffering. The majority of people's sole spiritual instructor is their own suffering. It makes you more profound. The mind-made idea of self, often known as the ego, is gradually eroded by it. When you reach a certain point in your life, you may come to the realization that I have suffered enough. To give just one example, this is the situation with virtually all of the individuals that attend a retreat. They have all experienced their fair share of human pain. If you question them about it, should this not occur, people would not be receptive to the message. They have experienced their fair share of human pain, and they have arrived at a place where they are prepared to listen to the message that asserts there is an alternative way to life for them. Considering that humans are responsible for a significant portion of their own suffering, there is an alternative way of life that you can choose to live that will not cause you to experience any additional suffering. This is the core message of Buddhism. The end of suffering. When you are ready to receive that message, which is truly the message in every religion, that is the message that Buddhism is providing. The most important message that Jesus imparted to his disciples was that they should seek out the pearl of great price, which is the kingdom of heaven that is already present inside them, as Jesus is quoted as saying, that is, without a doubt, the conclusion of a life spent in a state of agony. One may say that in order to reach a point when you realize that you do not need to continue to suffer, you must first go through a period of suffering. In this situation, there is a paradox. If I had not endured suffering, then this teaching would not happen. You could say that it has come about in part as a consequence of enduring a great deal of misery. My spiritual development as a human being would not have progressed if I had not been subjected to adversity. For me, suffering was the most important teacher, and for many other people, suffering is the most important teacher. Afterwards, when they are prepared, certain individuals make contact with a spiritual teacher or instruction. This occurs for some individuals. This can assist in hastening the process of coming to the knowledge that you no longer have to endure suffering. You are prepared to experience that. Even though it was already 2,600 years ago, the Buddha only discussed one thing: the possibility of putting an end to suffering that one has brought upon oneself. Remember that it is your ideas that cause you to suffer more than anything else, and when you stop inflicting suffering on yourself, you will be able to go on to other things. It is not the issue itself that is the problem, rather it is how you perceive the situation, specifically how terrible everything is. When you realize that there is another way to live, one in which you do not engage in mental conflict with the reality of the situation. Finally, the end of misery that was imposed upon oneself. It is inevitable that if I stop inflicting suffering on myself, I will also stop inflicting suffering on other people, because the two are inextricably linked. Because of this, you come to the realization that there is another way to live, one in which you do not engage in mental conflict with the reality of the situation. That brings an end to the agony that was imposed upon oneself. And because the two are connected, if you stop inflicting misery on yourself, you will inevitably cease causing suffering on other people as well. To put it simply, suffering plays a significant part in the process of our spiritual awakening. In the end, it teaches us, it develops us, and it ultimately gets us to the awareness that we no longer have to live in opposition. We are able to unlock the door to serenity when we acknowledge the power that our thoughts have over our experiences, and when we decide to surrender to the present moment. It is possible that the trip will start with suffering, but it will ultimately lead to a life that is founded on acceptance, freedom, and inner calm, which is the ultimate end of suffering. Before we're ending this video, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you will receive a new motivation video every day in your path to growth and self-discovery to become more conscious. Also, comment the word "now" in the comment section below this video and like the video. Lastly, if you know someone who can use some encouragement, please share it with this person. A small, thoughtful gesture could mean the world to someone.